Hello everyone, Father Scott Vanderveer here from the glory of fall. I just can't believe how beautiful this tree is, and of course the moments of fall are always so fleeting, so I wanted to share it with you. I also wanted to share with you a story that I heard recently about Northern Ireland. Many of you know that for years and years, Ireland has dealt with deep political and religious divisions. And the divisions that are the most famous there are between the Catholics and the Protestants, which, to be fair, are members of the same religion. Jesus was here 2,000 years ago, and the Christian church is founded on him. For the first 1,500 years of the past 2,000, Catholics and Protestants were the same. We were part of the same religion. The Protestants broke off just 500 years ago. So for us to be more defined by our differences than by our similarities is a really odd and unfortunate thing. Well, Northern Ireland is where that was the most evident, and Protestants and Catholics killed each other with regularity. It was a form of domestic terrorism that held the country hostage. In 1998, on Good Friday, a sacred day for all Christians, they signed what was called the Good Friday Agreement, which put to rest some of that violence. It was a ceasefire agreement, and although there continue to be tensions, that was a result of years and years and years of hard work by people who wanted to be in the breach, bridge builders from organizations like prevail, which helped Protestants and Catholics, people from Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland, to talk to one another and to grow in appreciation and respect. One person who was very key in that is a theologian and poet who is from Ireland, and his name is Pádraig Ó Tuama. He has spent years of his life working in dialogue between Catholics and Protestants in Northern Ireland. And he tells a story about a time that he was a high school religion teacher, which of course is a job that I had also before I was a priest. And one day he was teaching a class that was filled with 8th grade students, the equivalent of 8th graders here in America. And one of them was a young woman that he was particularly fond of because she was so sharp. Her brightness was very clear. He said she'd make a great lawyer because she would build a case and then she would go in for the kill. He said that this one day, she said, as she often would, building her case, "Mr. Ó Tuama, God made everything, is that right?" And he said, "Yes, God made everything." She said, "And is it also true that God loves us?" And he said, yes, it's true. God loves us. And she said, "Well, if God loves us and God created everything, then why would God create Protestants?" And he said to her, "Why wouldn't God create Protestants?" And she said, "Well, they hate God and they hate us. So if God loves us and God created everything, why would God create people who hate God and hate us?" He didn't know what to say because she was born after the Good Friday Agreement. That should not have been something that a person born around the millennium would say. Her beliefs, the beliefs that this smart girl had about how different and bad these other people who she didn't know very well were, really made him pause and feel sad about how far they'd come, but how far they still had to go in relations in Northern Ireland. As he was praying about what he should say to her in response that would be the most helpful, most healing thing, he thought about what a great soccer player she was, what a great footballer, they would say there. And he realized that there was probably an entranceway to her heart through soccer. And so, after she had said, those Protestants hate God, and they hate us, so why would God create them? He said to her, I know a lot of Protestants, and some of the Protestants that I know are devoted footballers. And I know for sure that some of those Protestant footballers would give anything to have you on their team. And she sat back, he said, and she said, really? Really? Me? Why would they want me? But she didn't say that. She just smiled. I know some of those Protestants who would love to have you on their team. I tell that story because we are dealing with a time of unprecedented division in our country, in our society, at least in our lifetime. Of course, we had a civil war in the 19th century, but let's admit, we're more divided than any of us can remember. Everyone says that. Everybody feels it. It's the reason why after the election, the weekend we had in church, everyone just sat there like statues, not wanting to say anything, knowing that if those who were mad about the election results responded angrily, they'd get a counter reaction from those who were happy. And if those who were happy showed any jubilation, they'd get a response from those who weren't. And I think we're getting to a place that we thought America was immune from, but that was naive. We thought that the kind of division that would cause a Protestant to kill a Catholic happened in places like Northern Ireland. That there was something they were doing wrong, that we would never do wrong, to create the environment that could happen in. Or we thought that the violence in South Africa was because of something they were doing wrong, and we weren't like them. We were a proud, noble, virtuous people with a strong, enviable democracy. But I think it's important for us to recognize that how many of us are Irish, for heaven's sakes, by our ancestry? I mean, Ireland, those are our people. South Africa, they're people like us. We are not immune from the kind of division that can get ugly, that can get dangerous, that can get violent. I think that's one of the main dangers that we've been facing in the times we've been living in. People have been thinking that the people who vote differently than they do hate God and hate the people who vote like I do. We've been thinking that they are diametrically opposed to all that is good. But I don't know many people who get up early in the morning seeking ways to promote all that is bad in the world, who want everything bad to happen and want everyone to be harmed and worse off. I mean, I don't know people who want that. I know people who make decisions that make it look to me like that's what they're yielding, like that's going to be the result of what they're doing. But I know for sure that that's not what they want, so that there's a perception problem. How they perceive the world and how I perceive the world are very different. It's a problem of perception, not of wanting what is good to prevail and what is bad to be eliminated. So what do? I think we work together. I think we do what the author Robert Urey said. He said, when you're facing a problem, don't sit across the table looking at each other. Instead, he said, both sit on the same side of the table and look together at the problem. I think that's what we have to do. I think we have to stop thinking that the Democrats and the Republicans are meant to be mortal enemies and shout each other down, that because they're opponents, they have to be enemies engaged in battle, which often feels like battle to the death. Instead, we should be sitting as Americans, some blue, some red, sitting next to each other, looking at the problems our world and our culture face together, seeking solutions together, that we together have the intelligence and the grit and the heart to solve, but that we could never solve on our own. I am committed to joining you in figuring out how we can do this. I want it so much. I want it as much as I want anything this side of heaven. And I hope that you will join me in doing what the people of Northern Ireland have worked so hard to do and continue to have to work at every day, to not believe the lie that the people who disagree with you hate God and hate you. And if they do accidentally or mistakenly or unwisely slip into hating us, let us take a page out of Jesus's book and not allow ourselves to be lessened and demeaned by someone else's hatred. Someone else hating me doesn't require me to hate them. Love those who oppress you, Jesus said. If someone persecutes you, love them. If they press you into service for a mile, walk 2 miles with them, he says. That's what makes Christianity an answer to so many of the worst and hardest and most difficult questions that humans can be perplexed by. Let us go forward in peace, hand in hand, walking together toward the future that God has dreamed for us. God bless you.